In the nation's northwest corner is Washington, an evergreen playground blessed by an unusual variety of natural attractions.
And one of them is Feliks Banel, our resident historian who joins us for All Over the Map every Friday. A quick look at the stories behind the names of local places. So let's talk about wildfire season.
Yeah, you know, they name hurricanes and tropical storms from a list that's prepared in advance. It's alphabetical of first names. Now, that's not how the names have nothing to do with geography or anything other than being first names in alphabetical order. But wildfires are named for the same reasons, but it's a much different process. You know, the agencies involved want to keep track of them, number one, and they also want the public and the media to know what's going on, mainly for safety purposes. And like tropical storms, differentiating between fires is important, especially when there's multiple ones burning at the same time, as there often are in the summer. Now, the process for naming a wildfire in a national forest or national park or other federal land is pretty simple. This is Deb Schweitzer at NIFC, the National Interagency Fire Center in Boise, Idaho.
As a rule, it's based on a landmark, and it's named by the first firefighter or IC on scene. So it's usually named after like a creek or a peak or some kind of landmark nearby that is easily referenced on a map.
Yeah, so that's pretty simple. And she mentioned the first firefighter or the IC on the scene. That's the incident commander, and the fires are commonly referred to as incidents. Now, I tried to track down some kind of official naming policy for the federal level, wasn't able to. Here in Washington, though, the Department of Natural Resources is often the lead agency on wildfires that are not on federal land. And I'll admit, I don't fully understand how the jurisdiction is determined for fires because the fires ignore the boundaries of different jurisdictions, right. And sometimes the jurisdictions have to figure out who's really in charge. Anyway, DNR shared a copy of the state wildfire naming rules with me. It's the same basic idea. First qualified person on the scene chooses a name, and it should be based on a nearby geographic feature. They also have a helpful list of wildfire naming don'ts I want to share with people today. If you ever find yourself the first firefighter or IC on the scene, number one, don't name it after a person or the cause. The fire name should have no more than 3 words and should not have the word fire in it.
Okay.
Because we saw that last year in California, the campfire fire the campfire was called.
Campfire. That's what I was going to say. It was very confusing.
And no play on words. Makes sense. You don't want to be respectful because it's oftentimes property and lives are endangered by these things. And avoid using the same name twice. But if you do have to use the same name, call it Rock Creek number 1, Rock Creek number 2, etc. And then when multiple fires combine into one, that becomes a complex. I was trying to figure how old no one could tell me how old that concept of when the idea of a fire complex.
Remember the Carlton complex.
Exactly, yeah. And that's when there's multiple fires and they merge, and the fire that's the most active takes on, it's the name of the fire that's most active becomes the name of the complex.
I see.
Really simple rules to follow. Now, if you can be obsessive about this stuff like I can sometimes be, there's an additional level of naming for wildfires regardless of jurisdiction that's more like an accounting function. And we'll spend a minute here. I don't want to bore people, but it's a web portal managed by the federal government. Local agencies enter a bunch of details, including the name and the location. And it spits out a number and a letter code. It's almost like a ticket number from a help desk. You know, if you ever tried to go online to get help with something, and it's from a database of unit identifiers. And it's these numbers that are used to track wildfires or incidents internally. Just a quick example. The left-hand fire is burning right now over. It's about 31 miles northwest of Yakima. It's named for the left-hand fork of Rock Creek. So they followed the rules. Less than 3 words, left-hand, very clear. The code number for this fire, it's WA, which, no surprise, it stands for Washington. And then OWF, which stands for Okanagan-Wenatchee National Forest. And then 000304, which is just a serial number. It's that number fire in that jurisdiction or that particular national forest. Now, there's no book about that, but that might be my first book about history, sort of the unit identifiers of the Great Northwest.
I would advise against it.
Yeah. And on a serious note, there's terrific online resources updated all the time by the various agencies through the Northwest Interagency Coordination Center in Portland. They have maps, links to blogs. There's a Facebook page for each fire oftentimes and a Twitter feed that kind of keeps people up to date. Because the main goal is obviously suppressing the fire quickly and then keeping people and property safe, whatever its fire's called.
Well, let's not use the identifiers in the news stories because that'd be kind of confusing.
Yeah, the numbers and the dashes would have people switching the dial to some other station.
Thank you, Feliks. Feliks Banel, heard every Wednesday and Friday on Seattle's Morning News and all its features at mynorthwest.com.